Welcome back to Political Capital, where money and power intersect. The Black Management Forum is hosting a two-day conference here at Gallagher Estate, where they will also be electing a new leadership. Part of today's gathering includes a myriad of issues to be tackled by the organization, issues like the impact of land expropriation on the economy, as well as the response of the South African Reserve Bank to socio-economic realities. I spoke to the outgoing president of the organization, Mncane Mthunzi.
I think from two perspectives. I mean, from the background or operations point of view, we've managed to stabilize the organization. Our systems and processes are one of the best. Organization is credible, and then we clean up on the finances. And I think I'm leaving a much stronger organization than the one I found, and it's much more better in terms of how it goes. On the external part, which is what people would probably see, it's on the policy side. We've had a robust engagement. Start with the governing party from the policies and the discussions that they would have. So we were seen as the people who will be informing those discussions. But also proud about the achievement we have managed to achieve, like going to JSE, influencing them that they must have transformation as part of the listing requirements. So gender and race are now part of it, and they have to respond and comment about it. And just broadly, I think we've had a massive support from corporate members, and it's in terms of the work that we've been doing, they are aligned.
I personally know some of your struggles. As I say, I've been with you for most of your incumbency as the president of the Black Management Forum. Your fight has also been to increase the number of black CEOs within listed companies, a fight that you are still fighting to this day that you have not won. Is it a fight that the new leadership will take up, and how do you win that fight?
So it's like how we wage our struggle for freedom and liberation as a country. So other people come, they lead, and they make a contribution, and they hand over the baton for others. So it's not a futile. So we have put the energies, we have surfaced the issues, we put them squarely on the agenda of the table, whereby most companies, by the way, before they will make moves around appointment or changes that they would make, they will have a consultation with us in terms of making sure that we give them the advice. So the influence of the organization has spread, and it's much deeper than it was before. I'm happy about the contribution we have made. Victory will not happen in 3 years. These things takes time for them to change. I'm hoping the incoming leadership will carry on with the struggle.
In your experience, why is it taking so long for previously white-owned companies to transform?
So it's a number of things. There are changes within companies themselves, but largely we have people who haven't bought into the South African rainbow nation of Nelson Mandela and Archbishop Tutu that they've painted. So some of us believe that we are disciples of it. That's why we carry on and make sure that we make these contributions. And others, I think it's a function of not having strong policy evaluation and monitoring from government, and also we don't have there are no consequences for not transforming. So there's no stick that goes with the lack of compliance or not adhering, because these companies, by the way, they are missing their own targets that they've set themselves.
Mncane, today we are living in the aftermath of the report, The Great Bank Heist, that looks into VBS and some of the dealings there. It's very difficult not to say that VBS was a black-run, black-owned bank. And on the day when the Black Management Forum is having its annual conference, cast an eye on some of the happenings there, especially some of the things that are emanating from the report, the complicity from politicians to bank managers to tenderpreneurs.
So the developments of what we have seen or what happened in VBS and the report that we are reading, it's a huge disappointment from a number of perspectives. Firstly, as a fellow black professional, company that was black owned, managed and led to be found to have been doing what they've been doing, it's an embarrassment. And so whatever does that have happened in VBS needs to be condemned. Secondly, I think like any other crime, it's a crime, and people must face the full might of the law.
What confidence do you have that it will happen?
So it has to.
Financial crime in South Africa has not exactly had the greatest success in terms of prosecution.
So it has to happen. One time there must be a case that needs to happen. But I think it's because the cases drag. We're still living with Steinhoff, having happened for so many months. We're still living with McKinsey and Bain and KPMG. These things take time, but we should be persistent. We should not rest until people are paying a price for the decisions that they've made, because without consequences, then this sort of behavior will be perpetuated.
Mncane, we saw your, should I say, sister body in the Black Business Council really going through some strains in the last couple of years until it elected a new leadership. But the voice of black business has kind of gotten lost within the last of the Zuma years. How are we going to make sure that this government really makes sure that people adhere to their own goals and to the legislative framework that would like to encourage transformation?
It's a season. That's how I would put it. I mean, you just mentioned Zuma years. We went through that season broadly as a country, and we'll have majority of people who would vote for a leader that maybe 10 years later would have the biggest of regrets. But having said that, companies operate within the same environment, that political ecosystem that is there, so they can't behave any different. So what needs to happen is that if we have made some blunders and bad decisions, so it needs to self-correct. So the system must be able to self-correct and make sure that we deal with it and we flush out those things that are not wanted from governance, ethics, and integrity point of view.
You have on the agenda a couple of items, among them the role of the Reserve Bank and its independence, and also how it should react to socio-economic realities in the country. Among them is the impact of land expropriation without compensation on the economy. What are you reading as the buzz within your members and some of the speakers that you have invited here?
Firstly, I think we've managed to package one of the best conferences. The content is amazing, and people are grappling with these issues. And our speakers and those who agreed to come and give us their thoughts have actually done a great job. It has been a great day so far in terms of the quality that we have seen. So we're hoping to take the outcome of these challenges and debates to formulate our own resolutions. Tomorrow we're going through the AGM, because we hope that some of these ideas that are coming out of this conference could be adopted as policy positions for the BMF to implement moving forward.
You were part of an exciting new leadership for the BMF when you were elected. You were still young then. I don't know about now. But what kind of leadership are you hoping that your organization that you're leaving will elect in order to energize some of the issues that we could see some of the issues to completion come the end of their term?
So I'm less worried about that, to be honest. So why is that? Is because BMF leadership, in fact, Justice Dlamini-Zuma says that the BMF leadership is inimitable, and means that you can't copy. It's unique, it's unparalleled, and it's been consistent. So whether it's me or you go back to Prof Nkutlu, Lotun Ndlovu, Begisbia, and even people like Eric Mafuna, we've been consistent in terms of our outlook, and we saw transformation as an instrument that needs to bring about fair, just, and equitable society that we are espousing for. So whoever is going to coming from the BMF, having spent time within the BMF, so there'll be consistency from ideology point of view. They may have different tactics and different approaches in terms of how they slice and dice things, but no one can deviate from the ideology of the BMF, its values and mandate.
Bousema Vosa is the Chief Operating Officer of the apex business body in South Africa, Business Leadership South Africa. But before this role, she was the MD of the Black Management Forum. And she discussed with me if anything has changed since her times till now.
So the reason why our first and most critical strategic pillar is inclusive economic growth and transformation. Now, we didn't have to include transformation therein because inherent in inclusive economic growth is transformation. But I think we wanted to be deliberate about transformation so that it can be seen that for the first time business is going against or going towards ensuring that we achieve transformation. Now, business has come out and said, we understand why the term white monopoly capital resonated. It resonated precisely because deconstructed, that term says capital continues to reside in the hands of the minority. And we agree, looking at the Commission of Employment Equity report as per the 2018 numbers, it says only 14.3% of rather top executives in business are black Africans. In a country where 80% of the population is black, it cannot be. And when you've got statistics which says that there are more black African people entering universities, there is more of us coming into graduating, and there is more of us being absorbed into corporate South Africa. It therefore says the reason why you don't see the fair representation in boardrooms when you go to corporate South Africa is precisely because we have refused to transform as business. So those are the critical conversations that we're having. The reason why we have transformation as part of our first strategic pillar is precisely so that BLSA for the first time can start confronting those issues. You see, Karabo, we need to confront them because I think it is clear to all of us that if we don't, very soon Alexander is going to cross the M1 bridge and come into Sandton and make sure that Sandton is ungovernable. Now, before that happens, before transformation is forced down our throats as business, we need to therefore do the responsible thing and ensure that we indeed transform. But it also makes sense. Think about it. If you're going to have a strong middle class, 80% of the population, it therefore means that you have more people that are in a position to can buy your products and services. And if you've got more people that can buy your products and services, it means you can produce more. And if you can produce more, it means you need to hire more people. And if you need to hire more people, it means unemployment decreases. And if unemployment decreases, it means the GDP of the country increases. So it's a win-win, really. Transformation is really a no-brainer. We really should not be advocating so hard for it. It is really about ensuring that we normalize our society.
I'm going to ask you a final question. It's a bit tongue-in-cheek. Take it how you take it. Black professionals are still complaining about access.
Absolutely.
Access to jobs, access to markets, access to companies. These are the same complaints that were there in 1994.
Yes.
So I'm going to say the tongue-in-cheek part.
Yeah.
So why do we need organizations like the BLSA, the BMF, the BBC, if nothing seems to be changing?
So you see, the issue here is the lack of political will. Now, you have to try the carrot approach for a number of years, and if that doesn't work, you need to change gears and say, to what extent do I implement the stick approach? Now, this is where government has to come in and regulate transformation, because you and I agree that 24 years into democracy, we can't still be talking about transformation. We need to agree, what are the interventions, what are the measures, what are the initiatives that we're going to put in place to ensure that transformation happens? Let's regulate it, even if it means for 10 years. Norway did that. They said that for a period of time, 40% of all boards in Norway are going to be women. And look at how Norway is transformed from a gender perspective. Now, my view is that we need to actually come in 10 years, let's regulate it, let's put quotas, let's put targets, let's ensure that corporate South Africa has no choice but to employ black people and women, because we know that our country can only prosper once we achieve that.
And we also put penalties for not adhering to those targets. Now, I think that's what's missing.
Now, you see, absolutely. Now, this is where the question of political will comes in, and you and I are in agreement, because penalties are already there in the legislation, but is our government effecting it? No. So now you see, corporate South Africa has now learned that even if these things are there in legislation, but it's really a dog, it's like a dog without teeth. You know, it just barks, but beyond barking, there is nothing more to it. So government, therefore, needs to start acting, you know, as if it's interested in ensuring that transformation happens. So my view is that political will can actually get us much further if we were just to ensure that we push our weight, you know, or we rather strengthen our hand to force corporate South Africa to transform, as it were.
Thank you very much for being with us on this edition of Political Capital. We're back on your screen at 6:30 on Tuesday next week as we continue to follow the fallout from the VBS saga. Until then, good evening.